Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope everyone is doing all right. So you're welcome today to the FIP ECPG webinar, and it is start Crack the Code, Life Secrets from FIP and ECPG Innovation Grand Champions. We trust that you're going to have a very good time. It's going to be a very interesting session for everyone to enjoy. Please, next slide, Clara. Okay, so today we have the moderator, we have our facilitator, we have our panelists, and we have so many people who are here with us, including Dr. Diala, who is part of the FIP Foundation team. You're all welcome here, and we trust that you have a good time. So our moderator is the person of Clara Mayunga, and she's a registered community pharmacist in the Netherlands. And since the year 2020, she has been actively involved in various subcommittees with FIP ECPG. She currently serves as the Professional Innovation Grant Coordinator. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is Gottlieb Dada, that is me. And I'm a highly motivated pharmacy graduate with over 3 years training and experience in global health, workforce development, and leadership. I'm a passionate individual who seeks to make the world a better place for all by contributing meaningfully and purposefully into various organizations, building individuals' capacity to make positive global impact. Okay, so please kindly listen to the following announcement. This webinar is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube, and this recording will be available on the website that is being displayed on the screen. You may ask your questions using the Q&A box provided just below your Zoom app. You just go down, you will see a Q&A box. You could ask your questions right there. And then you're welcome to provide feedback about the webinar via the website that is being displayed on the screen. And also you can become a member of FIP by simply following the link that's also on the screen. Please, the next slide. Okay, so for our non-English speaking colleagues all over the world, if you are not able to understand what we are saying, you could just turn on captions. If you go down your Zoom app, you will see show captions. You can just click on it and enable translation toggle. You can choose your preferred language by choosing caption language. Once you get there, you can decide which of the languages you would like to listen to this event from. Please, the next slide. Once again, we'd like to appreciate the FIP Foundation and Clara Pharmaceutical Group for supporting this online event. So today's program, we have many things in stock for you. First of all, we're going to be doing an introduction, and then we'll be doing an opening remark by the FIP ECPG President in the person of Emanuela Nzeribe, and we'll be introducing our speakers as well as the Q&A session, and then we'll make some final announcements. So the learning objectives for today's webinar are 3 in number. The first is case studies and real-life examples. So we are going to be learning from past recipients about their experiences as well as their best practices. We're also going to be identifying key components of a successful grant proposal. You're going to understand how to outline innovative solutions and project goals. Lastly, there's going to be a Q&A interactive discussion to address all participants' questions. So it's a privilege for me to introduce the FIP ECPG President in the person of Emanuela Nzeribe. She's the first 2-year president in FIP ECPG, and since the constitution changed, on a mandate to ensure that early career pharmaceutical professionals all over the world have access to career development opportunities to foster professional growth and impact in practice. She's a licensed pharmacist in Ghana and Nigeria, and she's the founder of La Elsa Consulting, which is focused on research and grooming the next generation of global leaders. As a science communicator and a researcher, she has published numerous articles in high-impact journals. Please join me to welcome FIP ECG President, Emanuela Nzeribe.
Oh, thank you so much, God's Gift, for that beautiful introduction and for introducing me. I am very happy to be here. So once again, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining from. And as I am Emmanuel Anzeribe, and I have the privilege of serving as the president of the FIP ECPG. And the little task I have to do in this webinar is to just give you a brief information about FIP and about FIP ECPG. So this is for our newbies and for the people that are just learning about FIP and FIP ECPG. So listen in, and I hope that you'll be able to take up something from this very brief introduction. So in everything, I know most of you have heard about FIP. You know a lot about what FIP does. FIP is the leader of pharmacy at the global level. FIP started sometime in 1912 and is serving as the Global Federation of Associations of Pharmacists, Pharmaceutical Scientists, and Pharmacy Educators. FIP has a vision, and this vision is to ensure that we have a world where everyone benefits from access to safe, effective, quality, and affordable medicines, as well as pharmaceutical care. And this is all done with a mission to improve global health by supporting the advancement of pharmaceutical practice, pharmaceutical sciences, and pharmacy education. So moving on to the next slide, FIP has development goals. So just like the way you hear about the SDGs goals, FIP also has the 21 development goals, as you can see them displayed on the screen, and it all encompasses everything that we're doing here. So there are three arms of the profession. We have the sciences, we have the practice, and the education, which you can term as workforce and education. So the whole goal of, the whole essence of these goals is to ensure that we are in line with these three major arms, and is all with the aim of transforming the pharmacy profession, not just globally, but narrowing down to nationally, to regionally, and in the local setting as well. So if you look at the 21 goals, you can see that there are different aspects such as academic capacity, leadership, medicines experience, digital health, patient safety. And you know, the beautiful thing about it is that FIP ECPG, which I will talk about in the coming slides, has a whole goal of making sure that all of these fall under what we are doing. So moving on to the next slide, I will tell you a bit about FIP ECPG. So what is FIP ECPG? FIP ECPG stands for the Early Career Pharmaceutical Group of FIP. So within FIP, which is a big and huge federation, we have the Early Career Pharmaceutical Group. And this Early Career Pharmaceutical Group is a group for young pharmacists, early career pharmacists within 8 years of graduation. So from 0 to 8 years, you are, eligible to be part of what ECPG is doing. So we are early career professionals within FIP, and then it started initially as the Young Pharmacists Group sometime in 2001, and later on it has transformed into the Early Career Pharmaceutical Group. And we pride ourselves by saying that we are advancing the profession right from the start, right? So ECPG, as ECPG, we have a mission. Our mission is to promote the goals of FIP, which I mentioned earlier, and then making sure that there is an inclusion of the ECPG membership in what FIP is doing. So taking active roles in FIP projects and activities that FIP is doing. And then we have a vision. Our vision is to, we look forward to having a future where we have early career professionals from all over the world that are empowered to continue to make impact. So think globally, but you're able to act locally within your society or within your sphere of influence. So which is the main reason why ECPG is in existence. And we hope that with everything that we are doing, inclusive of this webinar, we hope that we can be able to instigate and spur you on to continue to do something within your society. So for example, the grants that we are talking about today, we have a grant that is given every year, is given to, in collaboration with the FIP Foundation, we give it to early careers who have a project or a research that they're working on and would need some funding. So we have previous recipients who have gotten this, and they are here to give you further information to give you tips on how to win these grants. So moving on to the next slide, I will just give you a brief information about our membership. So we have a huge membership, and this, whatever you're seeing on your screen, is a graphic of the current team. They have the subcommittee members who, of which you can see them there, and then you can see my wonderful team members who are here to also continue to advance the profession from the start. So moving on to the next slide. As I mentioned earlier, we have a huge membership of people from different countries, 93 countries. We have over 42 subcommittee members from about 26 countries. And we make sure that all our subcommittee members are all represented across the WHO region. To the next slide, I'll be talking a bit about our theme for this year. Our theme for this year is collaboration and growth and collaboration. So how do we ensure that there is growth and collaboration? We do that by ensuring that everything that we're doing is aligning with this theme. This is the theme for this year. We represent ECPG internally and externally. We collaborate and support the One FIP goals, and then we engage with the FIP leaders through representation. It could be internal representation, it could be external, and we also do that through our liaisons. So we have various liaisons that liaise between ECPG and the FIP leaders. So we support our members via the projects through our early career pharmaceutical organizations. We connect with our members via our public relations, which includes our newsletters and our social media. We collaborate with partners as well to create a platform for engagement and collaboration, which also comes from networking as well. So we have virtual networking sessions, we have physical networking sessions, which happens at the Congress as well. And then we also engage with our members and every other person through public relations. So we do a lot of collaboration with both within the early career pharmaceutical group, and then with other young organizations or young federations as well. We also engage in interprofessional organization collaboration as well. So moving on to the next slide. This is just a tidbit of what we do within ECPG. We have various activities that we do, which includes mentorship program. We have one of it that is currently running. We have networking events. So I mentioned earlier that we have physical networking events. One is coming up next month, and then we have the physical, and we have the virtual, and we have the physical. And then we also encourage member engagement. So we engage with our members majorly through our newsletters and through social media. If you go to FIP ECPG, FIP ECPG on any of your favorite social media, you would see us there, and we are always engaging with our members. So we ensure that there's continuous professional development through the digital events that we organize, such as this, and then trainings as well. So we have the leadership development programs that we also organize, and then we also ensure that people are also able to be creative through our hackathon that we also organize. So last year we had a beautiful one on humanitarian pharmacy, and this year would be a more bigger one in AI and digital health. So all of these things that we do is to ensure that there's that you as an early career are able to grow in in wherever you find yourself, and then even within your sphere of influence, you're able to continue to make impacts. So with this, I will stop here, and then hoping that you would be able to sit back and learn from the previous scholars and from the previous recipients of this award, and more importantly, take out something that would help you as you continue to advance in your career. Thank you, and over to you, God's gift.
Thank you so much, Ella. Please, could we give her a round of applause using the emoji button? Thank you so much. Okay, so right away, we're going to go to our panelists. So we're going to be giving like a brief introduction of who our panelists are. So our panelist is, the first person here is Mr. Shepard Mbalaba. He's a registered community pharmacist, and he's the global lead for early career training strategy at FIP. He's also the assistant director at Drug and Toxicology Information Services, that is, and he was awarded the Health and Medicine Information Section Stipend Travel Grant and the FIP YPG Grant for Professional Innovation in 2019. His interests include digital health, supply chain management, and logistics, and he's the founder of Ordering Book, a platform for pharmaceutical logistics and online ordering. You're very welcome, Mr. Shepard. Okay, so our next panelist, we have Dr. Jack Collins. So Dr. Jack Collins is a lecturer and practicing community pharmacist at Sydney, Australia. He's also the treasurer of the Social and Administrative Pharmacy section of FIP. Jack's research interests include self-care, mental health, health equity, health policy, and sexual health. He was the 2018 recipient of the Young Pharmacist Grant for Professional Innovation for his work exploring implicit racial bias in community pharmacies. It is nice to have you join us, Dr. Jack Collins. So I'll give the floor over to Clara, who will be moderating the panelist session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, God's gift. I will stop sharing my screen so you can see the speakers and me more clearly. Yes. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. And of course, a warm welcome again to our speakers today and everyone that's joining us from all over the world, for taking time of your day or even night to join us today. And I would invite you to ask as many questions you want through the chat box so we can discuss this throughout this webinar with our speakers. And before we start with these questions, I would like to invite our speakers today. Even though we already heard a wonderful profile description by God's gift, I would like to invite you to introduce yourself a little bit and how you got to know about FIP, ECPG, and of course, the innovation grant we are discussing today. I will give the floor to you, Jack, first.
Thanks very much, Clara, and hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us online. So, as we've heard, I'm now a lecturer at the University of Sydney in Sydney, Australia, but when I applied for the grant was during my PhD. So something I'll talk about later is that I actually applied for the grant for the first time in 2017, which was my first time to an FIP Congress, which was in Seoul that year. The first year I applied, I wasn't successful, and I'm really open about that, and I hope that I can share some insights from what I tweaked from my first application to my second application. But certainly at my first Congress at FIP, it was a fantastic opportunity to get involved in what was then YPG. Meet a lot of other early career pharmacists from around the world, but not only early career pharmacists, a lot of pharmacists in general. FIP Congress is a really fantastic opportunity to network and meet people from all over. And then the following year in 2018 was the year that I had my successful application for the grant. So I was at Congress in Glasgow when I found that out, and then finally presented that work in Abu Dhabi in 2019. So obviously, those early years of getting involved with FIP were really formative for me because I'm still here now, taking on a leadership position as treasurer in SAP. So it really is fantastic. And I encourage anyone online who doesn't know too much about FIP or hasn't been involved too much to really, really try and network and connect and join in FIP events because it really is a fantastic opportunity.
Great, thank you so much, Jack. And of course, for Shepard, also the same question. How did you get to know about FIP and a little bit about yourself? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Clara. So I joined FIP in 2018. That's when I get to know about the YPG. I think at that time here in Zimbabwe we didn't have a YPG, so we're trying to come up with our own structure, just like the FIP YPG. So that's when I learned about the Professional Innovation Grant. But also, I think around that same time, I also applied and I was also elected as a subcommittee member for FIPYPG, which I served, I think it was 2018 to 2019. I think about the Professional Innovation Grant, I think it was an easy start. I think, you know how it is, I was a bit nervous because it was a huge thing for me, probably to apply at a global stage like that. Fortunately for me, I think when I was given the grant conference, which was in Abu Dhabi, via the Health and Medicine Information Section Travel Grant. So it was actually a wonderful opportunity just to know more about FIP YPG.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And just to get back to Jack about his honest remark that the first try he applied for this grant wasn't successful. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on that and how you look back on that first application you did for this grant?
For sure. So that first application was my first time ever writing a grant application, which might be the same case for many people who put in an application for this grant. If you haven't yet looked at the form, I encourage everyone to, and you'll see that it's quite brief. So one of the things you have to be quite good at when you're writing your application is very succinctly articulating what you're planning to do, but also what problem you're trying to solve, because you really have to convince the people who are reviewing the grant that there's a problem that needs more explanation or needs some kind of resolution, and you're going to be able to do that. Having said that, you only have 12 months to do the project and a budget of €1,000. So we're not curing cancer. We're not completely changing the world, but there are quite significant projects you can do in that time frame. So it's balancing all of those details. And what I actually did the second time I applied, I made a completely different application, to be honest. I completely did a different project. The project I suggested the second time was much more innovative. And I felt from the practice from the first time, I had really sharpened my skills in tightening what I was proposing and being very clear about timelines and what I was going to achieve in that 12-month period. But I suppose it's also important to remember that whenever your grant's being assessed, it's against the pool of applicants in that year. So you may have been very, very strong. For all you know, you might have been the second highest ranked application. So if you were to apply the next year, it may just be that you happen to be the strongest applicant that year as well. So I wouldn't take an opportunity, well, I wouldn't miss the opportunity to apply again just because you haven't been successful the first time around.
Thank you very much for explaining this to all of us and for giving the motivation to definitely try and apply for this grant. And maybe to continue on this, you were the grant winner, but we were very curious what was the topic or what was the project about, and what specific part did you choose or of the project to apply for this grant? Because to mention, the grant is €1,000 and has to be feasible in 12 months. So maybe can invite Shepard first to elaborate on his project he won that year.
Okay, thank you, Clara. I think like what Jake spoke about, for me, I also was focusing on trying to solve a problem. So I think around 2019, I was in my early stages as a community pharmacist. So I then noticed quite a lot of problems that we're facing in terms of supply chain management, lead time when we are ordering products. So that's when I then came up with an idea and said, okay, so why is it our system here is not digitalized? Because I mean, we're using WhatsApp, we're using phone calls to do the ordering. So my research was focusing on digitalization of supply chain management to enhance the procurement system and also to reduce some of like lead time and expired medicine. But sometimes when you order using the phone, they may not tell you like the expiry date of the products. You may order a huge quantity, and then you are faced with such challenges. So it was just trying to introduce digital technology within the supply chain system platform for community pharmacies.
So if I understand right, it was a very new form of working, very innovative for that particular field, and will help the pharmacists go further. So that's why this project was very eligible for this grant to be innovative and to move our role as a pharmacist further in our fields. Great, thank you for sharing. And Jack, maybe you can elaborate on your projects.
Absolutely. So the one that I put in the second time, the successful one, the one we'll talk about a bit more. Essentially, when I put the grant in, there had been quite a bit of research looking at the concept of implicit bias in pharmacy students and in other healthcare professionals, or perhaps in simulated environments. But we didn't have any data telling us whether pharmacists in their real world practice setting carried what we would believe to be implicit bias. So that's where we subconsciously treat people differently based on a presenting characteristic. Most of the literature that has been done internationally is in race. So that was the topic that I chose to focus on. But it was the first study in the world to investigate that in practicing pharmacists. So I suppose that was the innovative part of that. And the method was also quite innovative. And still, I actually only presented this a few months ago to some colleagues, and they still found it a little bit controversial, let's say. I sent actors of different races into a community pharmacy to see if they were treated differently, essentially. So it was quite exciting, it was a twist on a method I had been using already, but kind of adapted to a unique purpose. And I think something to consider when you're developing your project is, although I did this in an Australian context, it has implications beyond my immediate practice setting. So thinking about, you might be looking at something that's very relevant to your own practice context in your country, but how can we think about making that even a bigger picture and perhaps applying it in other settings and in other regions?
Yes, thank you for sharing that. It's definitely also what the FIP Foundation and when reviewing the application is looking at, having proposals that are a start of something new, a base for a new project, or can be implemented in already existing projects so that we can further or role as pharmacists or pharmaceutical scientists in our respective field. So that is definitely what we're looking at, and having this that you can translate it to other countries and share it with your colleagues is very great to have that as a project that is funded with the FIP Foundation grant. Thank you so much for sharing. And I would also like to invite the audience, if you hear anything, if you want to ask anything, please use the chat box and we will discuss it with our speakers. Thank you. And so you have these great ideas, great projects you wanted to make sure it happened in the 12 months and go further with this. And just to know a little bit about the challenges you face. I mean, Jack, you already mentioned that the first time you didn't get the grant, but the second time you did, and you really looked back at what you could have changed immediately. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit more on specific what you changed and you think it made the successful winner of your year?
Absolutely. I think so. I don't even remember the study I put forward the first time in great detail, to be honest, but it was investigating something that hadn't been investigated before, but it wasn't particularly, the method wasn't particularly novel, and it was quite unique to the Australian practice setting. And I think those were some factors that probably made it not as strong compared to my second time around, where it had the potential to be applied internationally. The method was quite innovative. And those kinds of things I think really strengthened it. But I'm sure if I were to compare even the writing and how tight my proposal was, the timeline I had proposed, how I had justified the budget, like all the different components of the application were much, much stronger the second time around. And that was just from practice, I think. I was in the first year of my PhD the first time I applied, not very experienced at all. So that 12 months down the track really gave me a lot of time. I also allowed more time to write and draft the grant. And I think that's really important. You look at it, you think, oh, it's only maybe like 800 words in total, or maybe a little bit more with all the sections. You think it won't take long to draft, but it really does. You have to spend time writing it, finessing it, making sure that whatever you're putting in there is clear to the reader what you're going to do. Because if you can't communicate your idea, why it's novel, how you're going to do it, it's very hard for the people reviewing the grants to agree that your project is a good idea and worthwhile funding.
Thank you. So make it, especially as Jack is saying, clear from the beginning till the end, that there is a story we are following when the people are reviewing your application, to make sure that they follow your idea and really see that it's innovative and has a direct application, a clinical application for the future. And maybe Shepard, you can share what you did that you think made you successful to winning this grant in your year.
Well, I think probably I also looked at the FIP team. I think that's when they were starting to focus more on digital technology. So I also tried to align my proposal along digital technology or digital health. But I think in terms of challenges, I think, yeah, that was a tough one for me, because in 2019, that's when we started to have COVID. And when I was doing my project, I think that's when we were experiencing COVID-19. It was something that we didn't understand. And also being a community pharmacist, the workload was too much. So we'd face burnout. And also you realize you have timelines that you're supposed to meet. So basically, I think that was one of the toughest moments that I actually experienced, because I knew that probably I have timelines that I need to send my for reviews. At the same time, there was lockdown. Some of the interviews or the questionnaires that were supposed to be conducted, it wasn't going to be feasible because of the restrictions. But at the end of the day, we managed to work it out, and it went well. But I think probably my encouragement is to look at the FIP theme or agenda, what they're trying to push. That can also help, because you're also trying to add value to what the FIP is actually working on.
Yes, great tip for adding that at the end, Shepard. Exactly. Align your project proposal with the ideas that FIP is working on right now. So, for example, look at the FIP development goals. They are easily to find on the FIP website if you Google it. And if you're writing your proposal, try to circle back, mention the number of FIP development goals, so they can also, the reviewers of your proposal can see that you really are connected it back to FIP. So I would really encourage you also to take that with you when you're writing the proposal for this grant. And another thing I think we didn't discuss yet is about mentorship. I was wondering, how did you choose your mentor for your projects? Shepard, please.
So I think for me, I think the mentor that I had, she was my former lecturer, and she was also a member of FIP. So I think it was easy for me to have her as my mentor, because she's also part of FIP. She understands the structures, the events that we were doing. So I also weighed in on that because when sometimes when you try to find someone who doesn't understand what you're trying to achieve, it can be difficult because usually we are asked to find mentors before when submitting the proposals. So I think that was also a good thing, and she was also very encouraging and very supportive. She was also supporting in terms of what I was trying to achieve. As someone who also worked within the community pharmacy.
And Jack, do you want to add anything on Shepard's answer?
Sure. So back when I applied, there was no formal mentor requirement, and I think that's a really fantastic thing that's been added in because you do need someone to provide that external guidance and help you along, particularly if it is your first time. Having said that, even though it wasn't a requirement, I had a mentor. So my PhD supervisor at the time already existed as, I suppose, my mentor in a more formal capacity. But she still is quite involved in FIP. So it's really helpful to have someone who understands the organization, what its values are, what it works towards, and has a bit of an idea about how the whole thing works, I suppose. If you're in an academic setting and you're enrolled in a research degree, for example, it's quite easy to have that mentorship because you do work closely with someone in that capacity. If you're someone that works in a clinical setting, that's not to say that you cannot apply for this grant and be successful. You absolutely can, but it probably would be valuable to seek guidance from someone who has experience in applying for grants and conducting projects, because it is a slightly different skill set and knowledge base compared to what you would typically do in practice. So I particularly advise people to, Shepard, that's fantastic that you reached out to one of your former university lecturers. I think that's a really sensible option because most of us probably have at least one or two lecturers, hopefully, that we connected well with when we were students. And I'm sure they'd be more than happy, generally speaking, to provide some guidance and advice. So I think that would be my advice for people if you're not formally in a research degree.
Thank you both. So if I can summarize your answers, it is really coming very handy if you have a mentor that can look with you at your application, help you maybe rewrite, help you how to write a grant proposal, and really understands the field you are working in. And it will be definitely a plus if your mentor knows about FIP. And you don't have to be in a specific research setting, an academic setting. You can also have your project outside of a research setting, maybe in a community pharmacy, a hospital pharmacy, maybe in regulation. And it will be very helpful if you have someone there to support you in this process of applying and maybe after winning in the period that comes after that, but later on that. Because I received a question in the chat box. Thank you very much. I think the person wants to know that is a qualified and working pharmacist, manager, and community pharmacy, and would like maybe to know if you could maybe have some tips for this person that is maybe want to attack a project, a problem, and how to start with this. If someone would like to ask, I'll invite one of you or both.
Okay, I think probably the good thing about pharmacy at the moment is there's a lot that we can do in terms of technology. That's why I'm mainly interested in. I think like right now I'm also working with FIP in coming up with documents of digital health. There's quite a lot. Right now we're talking of AI. So how can we use AI in community pharmacy? So probably I would say, okay, look at the technology gap and also can you improve work efficiency? Because one of the things that I've actually noticed within my career working as a community pharmacist, especially from developing country, a pharmacist usually of ordering And we usually have less time in terms of pharmaceutical care because almost all activities are surrounded you and you're supposed to do them manually. So that can be another idea to look at. Okay, so what can we digitalize that doesn't really require my direct supervision? Something like that will not limit in terms of work efficiency.
Thank you. So if I can summarize, look for a problem and something that you're interested in and will be very work efficient. And you can build your grant proposal or project proposal on that, on those features. Thank you very much, Shepard, for this adding this information. Jack, do you have anything you want maybe to add for this person who asked the question?
Yeah, I think thinking about in your own practice what kind of challenges you're facing, perhaps connecting with some of your peers and seeing if they're also facing similar challenges. It's a great way to find your problem and perhaps start to articulate a solution. I suppose in these kinds of settings, it may be helpful for you to reach out to your professional organization locally. So FIP member organization in your country, they may be able to help you a bit with supporting data or other information that you might need to help create the background and the setting and explain why that issue is a problem in your context to the person reviewing the grant. So you can start very much from your practice. I have a problem, I need a solution. But you also need to think about how you're going to justify that and explain it with some data and literature to back up whatever you're putting forward. And I suppose connecting with a local university or again, your former university lecturers and people like that might be able to help a bit there as well.
Great tip. Thank you for adding that local professional organization. You know, they have also people from different backgrounds, also people that are working besides for the organization also in research. So maybe you can find a mentor there. They can help you. And that also look around what kind of challenges are you facing or your peers around you, and try to see if you can turn it into a project, a very interesting one, an innovative one that has a direct clinical application. Well, we talked a lot about how to find the mentor, how to have about the project and the grant, etc. But I would like to know if you had an innovative project, but how did you make sure it standed out from the rest of the application that were also innovative and had a direct clinical application? So I was wondering, how did you make sure that you made sure that the reviewers catched your application and ended up being the winning one in your year?
Well, I think I'm not sure how to answer this one. Of course, one thing that I would encourage is just to do your best. I mean, make sure that your proposal is top notch because like what Jake said, there will be a lot of applicants. So basically you have to make sure that whatever that you are proposing has relevance and can be scalable, and it can be done within the given period. Because what I think sometimes there are so many people with brilliant ideas, but their projects or their research cannot be done within 12 months. So that's when sometimes they miss it. The proposal is wonderful, but the time frame, that's when then it becomes a problem. So probably you can try to probably do what is feasible. So just look at the feasibility and also even the budget. But sometimes will also be looking and say, okay, so you want to do a robotics project, 1,000 euro. It's not feasible, you see. So that's also another thing that I would encourage.
Thank you. Yeah, because you have a 12 months. It can sound a lot, but it's also a short period of time. So you have to make sure your idea, proposal, project is feasible within that time frame. So if the reviewer already sees like, this can be a little bit tight, and then your grade proposal can be maybe second or third, or so make sure you really have a feasibility plan of 12 months. And Jack, do you have any tips for our audience about?
Absolutely. I think think about what the reviewer is going to read first, which is probably the title of your project and then that first summary box. If I'm looking through documents and I read, like, it's like when I'm looking at a research paper, if I look at the abstract and it doesn't look too exciting, I'm probably not too enticed to go ahead and read the full paper. So I think really use that first box to sell your idea. It's kind of like, Shark Tank, your pitch for your idea. Get your hook in there, make it really clear. Here's a problem. I'm going to fix it. Here's my fantastic project. You really are selling your idea to the reviewer early on. You have room further down in your application to add in the detail. But that very first box, I think, is really critical because that's kind of your make or break. It's your first impression. And it's very hard to come back if your first bit's a little bit sloppy. I think Shepard's raised some really important points around being realistic with your timelines. If you have to get, for example, research ethics, that can take months sometimes. So make sure that you're factoring that into your timeline. Don't try and perhaps be untruthful or stretch the truth in your timelines or budget because you think it's going to look favorable. People reviewing these grants have reviewed lots of them. They are going to be able to tell if they look through and go, well, I don't think you're going to be able to do that realistically. So be realistic. Try and be honest in your timelines and what you're going to achieve because the reviewers will be able to tell that. I think also when it comes to the budget, read about what the purpose of the grant is, what it wants to fund. If your €1,000 is just so that you can buy a new computer to do something that's probably not the best use of that money. So think about what you're going to spend the money on and showing, I suppose, good value for money. What are you actually going to use the money on? And what can you achieve? Because you can achieve a lot with what is, in the grand scheme of things, a relatively small budget compared to, when we're talking about multi-million research budgets that we might see for large-scale trials. So yeah, I think really trying to be realistic and thoughtful and purposeful in your budget and timelines is helpful as well.
Thank you very much. And also for adding that the honesty during the application, catching the readers, especially in the first part, so that they are they don't want to stop reading your application anymore. Make it that interesting for them. And also that you mentioned the budget, to also be there very honest and thoughtful how you're going to spend the money you received with this grant. And just to know a little bit more, I don't know if it's possible, just how did you make sure you could do that in €1,000 budget for a project of 12 months? Maybe Jack, you can go first.
Sure. I suppose what I did is I started off with like a spreadsheet, more or less, €1,000, and I thought about all the different things I would need to do the project. So what were my essential items that I needed to finish it? And then I had my nice to have optionals and I worked from there. So you start off with the most critical things you're going to need to execute. And then if you have a little bit of money left over by the time you've comfortably budgeted for that, then you can have something that would be nice to have, but you could execute the project if you didn't have it. I think it's also important to allow yourself a small buffer. You cannot be budgeting to the euro. You have to accept that in real life, when we do projects, things don't always go exactly to plan. So a small buffer is also helpful. You don't want to be at the end of the project where you've overspent and you've only got the €1,000 to work with. Can cause quite a few problems. But I would suggest mapping out the different things you think you'll need and prioritizing each budget line and going down through them until you've exhausted your €1,000.
Thank you very much for the elaboration, because this grant is also the only grant you can use for your project. So keep that in mind, that it is the €1,000 you are going to use and are allowed to use to finish this project. Just to mention that. And Shepard, do you want to add any points on this topic?
I think I'll just reiterate probably what Jake just said. I think probably it's good to have a needs assessment offhand so that you can just map out what is required, and also you shouldn't be overzealous because of course there's always another way of doing things. You can either choose to do it the more expensive way or the cheaper way. So I think, like you also said about having a unforeseen budget, that is actually essential because the moment when you put your budget to the dollar, when you're expecting to have some services at a certain amount, the moment they change, then you'll be in trouble.
Yes, exactly. So creating that small buffer for unforeseen circumstances that you really so you really have to need your needs assessment clear, but also clear for your proposal so the reviewers can read that. And before rounding up this part of the application process, I received another question in the chat box from the audience. I think this one could be tackled by Shepard. Is the person would like to step into AI digital health in community pharmacy and would like to know how and from where to begin with this.
Okay, thank you, Clara. I think the good thing, Ruma, is I think it was I think a few days ago we had Tech FIP Technology Advisory Group. They launched an AI document so that can actually start with that can actually guide you on how as pharmacists you can use AI. It's actually a fantastic document that you can actually see what type was AI. We just know probably of ChatGPT, but there's a lot within AI that can be beneficial. Okay, so when you go through that document, it will help you understand which activities that you can apply AI and which may have with some of the activities, because we're health professionals, there can be issues to do with ethics. So sometimes you can have a fantastic idea, but unfortunately, because of health ethics, you may not be able to share certain information or patient's information. So basically, I would encourage just to go and look on the document that was released by FIPEF. I think it was last week.
Okay, thank you very much. So like Shepard is encouraging to look at the documents of FIP that are released on this topic. And I don't know if it can be shared, but I think with a search on the website of the FIP website, the documents can be found, if I understand it, right? Because the person is asking. Yeah, it will be on the website.
Yes, it's on. Yes.
Thank you very much. And if there are no more questions for the audience about the application process, I would like to discuss with our speakers about what's next. So you won the grant, and how did your time after winning the grant look like? So what were the action you should take, and how did you manage your time, and the connection still with the FIP ECPG and the foundation. So Jack, if you could elaborate on this.
Sure. So I was very excited to find out I was successful my second time around, but as soon as I got home from Congress, the gravity of I need to start writing ethics and get this project going really hit me. So I think start as soon as you know that you've been successful with something that I would say the 12 months time starts ticking immediately. But it did mean that I got to do the project, which I don't know if I would have done it without the grant, but what I would definitely say is I wouldn't have had the idea without the grant. So the grant was a really nice way to push me to think outside of the box I had been in. So one added benefit of even just the application process is that it might force you to come up with new creative ideas that you haven't come up with yet. So if you're looking for another good reason to put in an application, regardless of whether you think it's going to win or not, there you go, there's one. And then I did the project. There's a reporting period. You have to put in an abstract to present at Congress in the following year. And then you get to go to Congress and present your findings as a poster presentation, which is really fantastic to have it done. You really get to meet with people from the foundation, which is great, the people who actually support the grant, as well as meeting and connecting with the ECPG team, which was really nice as well to connect with the team that were in the year that I won. So obviously going to Congress has amazing benefits, a really fantastic opportunity. If you've never been before, it would be an incredible opportunity to go for the first time to present your findings from your work as well. And I think it's kind of the long-term things from that. So you make a lot of connections, meet a lot of people. It's great networking opportunity. People are interested in what you've done and want to talk to you about it. And as I said, even a few months ago, I was still presenting the work that I had done for the grant to some different colleagues. So it has long-lasting effect. It's something that I'm very proud to have received as well. And I have the little trophy on the shelf in my office at work. So no, it really was a really fantastic opportunity. So I encourage anyone who's thinking of applying or not sure, just do it. And as I said, if you're not successful the first time, have another go.
Thank you. And it's so great to hear that you're still very, if you talk about it, very happy, glowing about your project, and still it has a long-lasting effect on after winning the grant. And good that you mentioned that you can go to the Congress, but it's compulsory to write an abstract for your poster presentation during the FIP Congress. And not only that, it is also very important to write reports during the project time in those 12 months to keep the ECPG and the foundation updated on your progress of the project. So keep that in mind, that after winning the grant, we're not saying goodbye, we're still holding that connection. So project reports are important, and of course the abstract and presenting your work at the Congress, so the foundation can also see what great work is being done with this grant they're handing out. And Shepard, how was the period after winning the grant for you?
Well, I think probably I will not repeat what Jake said, but it's a nice feeling to be awarded the innovation grant, because it's like when you receive the email, you say, "Wow, okay," like as much as you had belief, but you were not sure you were going to be given the grant, but one of the most important things that I would say is probably just the moment when you get the confirmation. I think just look at you don't want to miss those timelines, because, or even to put yourself under pressure when they require for you to submit documents, and one of the most exciting part of it is attending the Congress the following year. I think for me, because of COVID, I then had to attend the Congress in 2020-2027, and I have my award with me. It's really a wonderful thing. It's actually something that I would eat, like Jake said, make sure that the document is interesting. Because the moment when it's not interesting, as much as you have a brilliant idea, if it's not something that can captivate the readers, then it becomes a problem.
Thank you so much for sharing, and a very nice touch for you bringing the award with you to this webinar. Very inspirational for everyone who's thinking to apply. It's a very nice process coming after winning this grant. Not only you can work on the project you created, the problem you wanted to tackle, and work on this for 12 months and also present to your peers at the Congress and also networking with the rest of us. So it's a great time. You still have to do some tasks, but we will work together very closely so you can manage this, and we can see you at next year Congress. So that means the Congress that is in 2026. Thank you so much. And I think you already touched on that, Jack, about still presenting your work you won the grant with, but maybe you can pinpoint really how has this grant influenced your career or research direction after winning the grant?
Yeah, so I think I was a PhD student when I got this. So when I was applying for my next academic job after that, it's fantastic on my CV to have a grant that's been successful. So that's a nice part. But even so, it was practice and experience writing a grant. And that's kind of an integral part of my job as a research academic. So it's great just to have that opportunity and practice. Presenting the work at a conference is, of course, something else that's fantastic as well. You get to have a presentation and accepted abstract on your CV. Report writing, that's a really helpful skill to have. So much like any other funded research you do, you have to report to the funder. So it's good to have that practice and experience. I also managed to publish my work as well as a peer-reviewed publication. So another benefit that's really fantastic and probably wouldn't have been possible had I not received the funding to complete it. I think also, though, it opened a new area of research for me, as I kind of alluded to earlier. It was an area that I probably wouldn't have necessarily gotten into or thought too much about otherwise. So the grant really prompted me to think a bit differently, look into other options. So those are some of the impacts it's had on my career. I guess it's had pretty varied impacts. But then also, as I said, it strengthened my relationship with FIP, strengthened my connections with people at FIP, and certainly will have contributed to me now holding an elected position in FIP as well. So who knows where it could take you? It might just be one conversation you have with someone about it, and it could make a world of difference.
Thank you very much for sharing this with us. Very inspirational. And Shepherd, maybe you can share how the grant had impact on the rest of your career on research direction.
Okay, I think it had also a huge impact on my engagement with FIP. Like I said earlier, I now work as a global lead for early career training strategy. And within that, I'm also currently working with FIP in development of digital health modules for pharmacists. And also, I was actually privileged to review the global competence framework, where we also introduced digital health for early career pharmacists. So I think that's something that has also strengthened my belief in myself, because something when you create something or when you get an award, you feel like, okay, so maybe I can do this. And also, I think I've also worked with ECPG on developmental toolkits. I think the one that they introduced a few years ago. So right now I'm also an entrepreneur within digital health space. So basically, it had a huge impact in my career.
Also, thank you, Shepherd, for sharing your inspiring story after winning this grant. Hearing you too about your process and career after winning this grant outside FIP with FIP means that there is really an opportunity to have a long-term collaboration with FIP, and what you're doing in your work, bring it back to FIP to even make our foundation stronger together. So I'm very happy and pleased you share this with us, and being as an inspiration for our audience, for future applicants, grant winners. Thank you so much for this. I would like to thank you both for your time to share your experience and tips with us all. I'm also leaving this session very informed but inspired about your experience with its grant application and the process afterwards. I believe that our audience also will leave with insightful tips to apply during their application process. And to the audience, I also want to say, if there are any questions that are left unanswered or may come to mind after this webinar, please do not hesitate to email us at fip@ecpg.org, and we will be happy to answer any questions that you still have. So thank you so much, Jack and Shepard. And for the end of this Q&A session, I will give the mic back to God's Gift.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Clara. Thank you, Dr. Jack Collins. Thank you, Mr. Shepard. It was a really wonderful session, and I'm sure everyone had one or two things to take home with. Thank you once again. So quickly, we have some announcements to make. Clara, could you please share the screen?
Screen is being shared. Please let me know if the presentation is...
Yeah, we can see your screen. Could you please go to the announcements? Could you please go to the announcement after this? Okay. The next slide, please. Okay, yeah, thank you so much. So you've been hearing a lot about the FIP Congress. So the FIP Congress is going to take place at Copenhagen in Denmark. Sorry, could you please go to the previous slide? So there's a special package for IPSF, that is International Pharmaceutical Students Federation, as well as ECPG, that's Early Career Pharmaceutical Group. There's a special package, and it is at a discounted amount of 225 euros. So you're going to have access to the exhibition, poster sessions, everything about the Congress, as well as international nights, and even opportunity to participate in the leadership development workshop or the hackathon. So we encourage you all to be a part of this, and please do register. You can register using the barcode, the QR code rather, that's on the screen, or you could just go to the chat box and check it out. Okay, please, the next slide. Okay, yeah, so we just finished the webinar on the innovation grant, so that's the flyer for it. Remember that the application deadline for this is 31st of May. The earlier you start your application process, the better, so that you don't have last minute rush. You take your time to use all you've learned today to bring forward a very, very wonderful innovation. Okay, also we have an information for you. There's another grant available, and this is for the FIP Health and Medicines Information section. And they offer 1,000 euros to first-time attendees to the FIP Congress, anyone that is from low middle income country. So you can just use the QR code, or you could also check in the chat box. Okay, please, the next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. Also, there's another grant available. It is called the Mayunga Travel Award, and this is by the Industrial Pharmacy section. And the deadline is 1st of May. So we have approximately like 28 days to apply for this. And this award covers the FIP Congress registration fee, attendance to all IPS workshops, as well as 1,005 euros to contribute to your Congress expenses. So this is another grant or another award that you should look forward to and you should apply for it. Okay, and finally, we have the FIP ECPG Needs Assessment Survey. We believe that your opinion is important and we value your opinions. So if you could please take a few minutes of your time to scan the QR code that you can see and give us your ideas or your suggestions on how we can make FIP ECPG much better. Thank you. And then finally, please, the next slide. So if you need any information, you can always reach out to us at ecpg@fip.org. You can follow us on all our social media platforms, LinkedIn, X, that is Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, as well as YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. Please kindly follow us, kindly subscribe. And you can also follow us on our WhatsApp channel. You can also be a member of FIP ECPG. The link is also in the chat box, and you can also scan the QR code on your screen. So once again, thank you. We would like to say thank you to FIP. We'd like to say thank you to FIP ECPG. And we would like to say thank you to our wonderful speakers. And thank you to you who have been paying attention to the meeting from the beginning to the end. So thank you so much. And we wish you all a very